What do you do when the marketing stops working? This is a really important question because as an agent, when you're running a campaign, you can all of a sudden that for one reason or another on a particular campaign that you're getting less buyer activity. And it's really interesting because agents all of a sudden start to panic when they're not getting the high numbers at their open for inspections. Well, there are other things that you can do. And that's about going back to all of the buyers that have already inquired in property over the course of the last 12 months. You see, just because someone inquired on a property doesn't mean that they actually purchased. And your job as an agent is to re-engage with your buyer pool to understand whether or not they're actually in the marketplace today. Now, the way you ask that question has a massive bearing on success. Are you looking to buy a house in 2018? Well, the challenge with that is it's very time specific, you're actually putting a lot of pressure on the client, and you're not really getting clear about whether or not they still have a desire to want to proceed with a purchase. A better version of that question is just to ask this: Hannah, quick question, do you still have an appetite to purchase? Now, what that does is it tells you about current circumstances, current emotions, and current feelings as to whether or not they're looking to proceed with the purchase. So if you find them the right home, then they'll make the decision to come and buy. So your job as an agent is to get really clear that just because you met someone 3, 6, 9, 12 months ago, it doesn't mean that they're not an active buyer today. Unfortunately, most agents have relied on email and social media to actually be the major lead sources for additional buyer activity. And when they put their property online, they're expecting to get a high number of inquiries. With some recent changes in legislation around quoting, in particular in what's been happening in Victoria, it's actually started to change the requirement because every single property in Victoria is required to have a statement of information. That statement of information now forces quoting on every single home. And so it gives a buyer a really clear indication about what's happening. Your job, if you have an advertised guideline, is to make sure that you then communicate to the current buyer pool, as they're a little bit afraid about what's happening with those guidelines, about how all of the properties that you've taken to market in, say, the last 6 weeks are actually in a position that they've sold well within the price guidelines. Now, this is a really important part because consumer behaviour is still believing that some of those price guidelines may be a little bit under where the market conditions are. And when a market resettles, you actually find that all of a sudden some of those price guidelines that are being given might not only be spot on, but they might actually be a little high as market conditions start to shift around that demand and supply. Your job as an agent is to make sure that you have a really good quality list of buyers that are in the market today. To do that, think about all the people that have already registered or bid at auction, all the people that have already made offers on homes or come back for second appointments. And if you're using apps like HomePass, what it will allow you to do is to see those buyers that are coming to open for inspections over a period of time. So then you can clearly identify what you need to do as an agent to be able to help those people to buy. The best meeting that you'll ever put into your business is a little 20 to 30 minute meeting each week where you run through the best buyers in each price range. And this should really be done as a sales team so that we can ensure that we map the best buyers to the best properties that we have available. I really hope that you've enjoyed this week's coaching tip, and I look forward to seeing you next week.